In the last stream, we were working on finalizing the automation of all of the frozen ores to allow us to continually produce things like iron, copper, tin, gold, lead, silver, and of course all of the associated gems called redstone, lapis, diamond, nether quartz, and nickel. And it's been working pretty well. We have once again broken all of the pickaxes in these block breakers here. All of the ores generated by that have been processed by our blast brick furnaces here, and now in our compacting drawers we have 279 iron, 219 copper, 119 silver, 96 redstone. You get the idea. We've got a fair amount of all of these resources, and going forward, if we want to get more of them, it's just a case of putting more pickaxes into these block breakers. And I do believe there is actually a way for us in the future to fully automate the sending of pickaxes to these block breakers to hopefully get this fully automated, so we just get these resources coming in passively. However, that's not the plan for today's stream. For today's stream, I want to start delving into the world of elemental craft. This is a mod that I have never played with before, but that looks pretty interesting. Now, before we get into that, you may notice that there are a lot of quests for me to claim. In fact, every single quest that we have already completed is now reset, and that is because we are now on a new version of the mod pack, and the rewards for all these quests have been changed so that now each quest gives you a B-book as a reward. And so if we click the click to collect all rewards button, we get a stack and a half of B-books right off the bat. And if I am not mistaken, I believe that Ben has updated the shop with yet more things to purchase. In fact, it's probably easier if we just press U and look at this in JEI. So there's a lot of spray cans. I think we can use these to create different colored blocks, like these yellow colored stones and all of the various different colors of, I guess, beds as well. Actually, interesting. Oh, so you can change the color of really anything. You can turn like any concrete into yellow concrete with a yellow spray can. That's very interesting. And all of the new colored bricks, if I type in colored into JEI here, we can see that we've got a bunch of different colored stones, colored bricks, colored slabs, colored stairs that we can potentially now use going forward. In our base design, these were not here previously, so that's nifty. I do see that we have access to things like the feral flare lantern, and more interestingly, the mega torch. The mega torch here does require 32 B-books, but it prevents natural spawning of hostile mobs in a big radius around the torch. I think it's a 64 block radius around the torch, and so putting that down near us would probably alleviate all the problems that we've been having with mobs walking into our Glacier Flora area. Also, I did not realize up until now, but I have been saying Glacier Flora wrong. It's Glaciflora. I was putting an extra A in there. Glaciflora is the name of the flower, but the mobs are currently falling in there and attacking us whenever we go up. We could potentially get a mega torch to resolve that issue. There's also the feral flare lantern, which is pretty nifty as well. You place this down and then it places invisible lights all around it to, again, A, kind of prevent mobs from spawning, but also to allow you to light up your base without the need for all of these torches all over the ground. And so I'm contemplating getting one of those, although it might be easier. Yeah, just to craft one. These are fairly straightforward to craft, and so I don't know if it's worth spending 32 B-books on that. Although, to be fair, there's still not a ton of stuff to buy here. You can buy a draw controller, you can buy a draw controller slave, you can buy the sprayer, which is how you use all of the different spray cans. There's also small presents, regular presents, and large presents. I'm interested in these because they're not too expensive. We got a lightning transposer from Cold Snap Horde. We can make a lightning snowball. I wonder if we throw that at an entity, if that entity then gets struck by lightning. There is only one way for us to possibly find out. Hello, my friend? It totally does. Wow, okay. I don't know particularly how useful that is going to be to us, but that is a nifty little device. For now, I'm going to put all of these B-books in the system, and we'll contemplate what we're going to purchase, I think, in the future. Between streams, I have lit up this room just a little bit. We didn't put any torches in here last time, and I don't want any mobs spawning. One thing that was pointed out to me in the YouTube comments is that, of course, we do have the framed blocks mod here, and so what we can do, instead of continually making this hole in the wall here, is we can instead look at making a framed door, and then we could texture that door to look like the living rock bricks that we're using for the rest of the wall, and that would allow us to very easily hide one, if not more, doors in this wall to allow us to enter and exit without having to break and place blocks over and over and over again. And so if we were to do something, and I've just put this here, but let's move this. If we were to do something like this, and we put down the frame draw like that, we can then right-click the living rock bricks onto that door, and now we can just do this to get into and out of this area, which I think is going to make our lives a whole heck of a lot easier. And if we really wanted to, I think we could also make a framed pressure plate and color that to look like the living wood planks, at which point we could probably just place that down right about here, color that like so, and now we could just wander over like this and enter this room, which I think is pretty nifty. And I think I might do the same on the other side here, just to make it symmetrical and also to make it a little easier for us to access this room in the future. Now that that's taken care of, the other thing that I've done between streams is build a new layer to the base. So we currently have our little room down here with all of our storage chests and with our hopper hock, but I've added a second floor all the way down underneath that room, and this is the room that we're going to use in today's episode to get started with elemental craft. Now, in order to get started with elemental craft, we are going to first have to get some new ores. If we go to the quest line here, the first ore that we need to get is frozen inert crystal ore. That can be turned into regular inert crystal ore, and that is going to give us inert crystals, which are kind of the base resource going into elemental craft. Now, getting frozen stone ore, very straightforward. We just take a regular piece of stone and craft it with an ice shard, like so. Once we have the frozen stone, we can just put that down near the orchid, and that will transform into one of, I think, 5 different ores here. We can get niter, sulfur, apatite, inert crystal, which is of course the one that we are after, or cinnabar. So we have like a 1 in 5 chance, assuming these are all equally weighted, which I assume they're probably not, but we have approximately a 1 in 5 chance of getting the frozen inert crystal ore, which means we're probably going to need quite a bit of frozen stone. Thankfully, as per usual, the resource generator Mark II is here to help us with that. And so I think what we'll do is we'll craft yet another tier 2 resource generator, which does require that we get just one more bucket of water. And then we don't have any space up here. I mean, we do have space, but I like the symmetry we currently have. And so I think what we'll do is quickly craft up one more storage drawer. And then just like we've done here, I think we'll put another resource generator embedded probably into the center of this back wall, because I think this is maybe the final resource generator that we're going to need. At least it's definitely the final resource generator for frozen stone. So let's do this, let's do this, and then let's do this. That's going to start to slowly but surely produce that frozen stone for us. I guess very slowly, but very surely. There it is. Okay, cool. Now, of course, we can make our resource generators faster by putting a speed block above them. And at this point in time, it's currently taking 220 ticks to produce one piece of frozen stone, which is not particularly fast. And there are a couple of things we can do here to make it much faster. For example, a simple block of lead is going to more than double the amount of frozen stone that we're getting. Signalum might be a little too far away for the time being, but redstone takes it down to 90, and redstone is very easy for us to get, actually. Let's see if there's anything better than 90. Netherite is 20, but I think we're a little ways away from getting 9 netherite. To get netherite, we first have to go and get the orchid ignium and use that to get some netherite scrap from ancient debris, and of course get enough of it to get 9 netherite ingots, which I don't think we're going to be able to do in today's episode, but is of course something we're going to try and do in the future. So there are faster alternatives, but I think redstone is probably our best bet here. I think it strikes a nice middle ground. We could make electrum. Electrum is 85 ticks instead of 90, so it's a 5 tick advantage, but getting a block of electrum is going to be a lot more work than just grabbing one block of redstone. So let's just go ahead and throw that down right about there, and we should start to see this frozen stone coming in a lot faster. It should be approximately every 4.5 seconds now, as opposed to the 11 seconds previously. So let's take all of the frozen stone that we have here, and let's try and get a feel for just how rare these crystals are. So I think what is going to make a lot of sense here is for us to once again grab our backup block breaker, and we should probably just get another pickaxe as well. One thing I did forget to do in the last stream, I did forget to add the draw controller to the storage scanner. And so we should have the draw controller somewhere on this list. Let me quickly refresh. There it is. And if we make that routable, that's going to give us access to all of these ingots and gems, because up until now, those weren't available to us. But now that those are available to us, it should make making things like this pickaxe here substantially easier. And so let's do this. Let's put the pickaxe in, and then let's see if, let's add this to the blacklist, of course, to make sure it doesn't break the frozen stone until it's transformed. We should have, yeah, a bunch of mana in the mana pool here, and we should just be able to right-click very fast. Nice. So we did not get a single piece of frozen inert crystal ore, which is not a particularly good sign. Okay, so another 18, and we did manage to get 2 of these inert crystal ore. Let's go ahead and smelt those, and let's see if we can make any of this happen. I think we can potentially complete a few of these initial quests, and of course, as we do, we're going to back up on more frozen stone that we can then use going forward. So the first quest here is, of course, to actually have this ore in our inventory. Let's make sure we do get that quest complete. Once we have the inert crystal, we get the Elementopedia 23rd edition as a reward. Let's also not forget to claim even more B-books here. And then the quest after that wants us to craft our inert crystal into a contained crystal using 4 gold nuggets and 1 inert crystal. So inside of the Elementopedia here, it does have basics and inert crystals. To get inert crystals, start by digging underground to mine inert crystal ore. That makes sense. Contained crystals are the main components of instruments. By coating an inert crystal with gold, you are able to prevent it from being altered by elements without losing its ability to interact with them. Raw element shards are elements that crystallize in contact with creatures. You can also get them by throwing and breaking element crystals by hand or with a dispenser. They can be transformed into usable elements with an evaporator. So the idea is here that we're going to get these different crystals. There's water, fire, earth, and air. Those are the 4 types of crystal we can make. And I believe if we get ourselves an element evaporator and a small element container, what we can do is we can take the shards that are associated with those crystals, place them into the evaporator, and that will evaporate those shards into like the essence of those elements. If I show you here real quick, we end up with this. And so it's kind of like having mana from Britannia, but you have 4 different kinds of it. You have fire, earth, air, and water. And then you can use those to craft different items. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves though. Let's see if we can't craft a water crystal here. This is 4 buckets of water with 1 contained crystal. We do have 2 buckets, and getting 2 more buckets is going to be very easy now that we have a ton of iron, 1 and 2, and of course we do have an unlimited water source over here, 1, 2, 3, 4. That should be everything that we need in order to make our first water crystal. And once we have a water crystal, you can right-click these to get water shards. The Twitch chat is right in that the shards here are actually mob drops, and so we do have 23 earth shards, we have got 7 water shards, and we have 7 air shards. No fire shards, unfortunately, but this is actually a pretty good start for us here. So we'll claim our rewards. And then over on the left side, there is a quest to make the impaired element pipe. Right-click on the pipe to set it to extract mode. This, as you might guess, is what's going to allow us to move these elements around between different machines. Fairly easy. 1 contained crystal and then 2 iron ingots. It, of course, does require yet another contained crystal, and that is going to use our last inert crystal for the time being. That gets us 4 element pipes. And now, if we want to make the small element container, we need 1 glass and those 4 pipes. Now, I don't believe that we actually need the element extractor. It's fairly expensive. And if I'm not mistaken, the way this works is that you can find little nodes out in the world that are associated to the 4 elements, fire, water, earth, and air. And if you find one of those nodes, you can put the extractor down next to it, and that will begin kind of sucking essence out of that node. I did a little bit of scouting between streams, but I didn't manage to find particularly many nodes nearby, and so I don't really think that's going to be a path that we want to go down. I think it's going to be a lot easier for us to just craft the crystals. Speaking of which, let's go see if we don't have some more frozen stone, and let's see if we can't get some more inert crystals. Okay, so we got 8 more of these inert crystals. Somebody in the Twitch chat did ask if mining the inert crystal ore gets you more crystals, and we did just test it. Unfortunately, it doesn't. You still get 1 inert crystal from each ore, which is unfortunate, but 8 more is a good starting point here. Let's craft a few of those into contained crystals, because I'm fairly certain that's essentially all that we need going forward. I don't think we actually use the base crystals for crafting much apart from the contained crystals. So down here, if we want to make the small element container, we just need 1 glass, which we actually don't have. We do have a little bit of sandstone, but I think we are probably going to have to go and try and grab a bit more sand from the surface, specifically over by our ice lake. But if we want to do that, we kind of need another bucket of lava. Thankfully, what we can now do is we can take netherrack, and if we smelt that netherrack in here, that is going to get us nether brick. And unlike cobblestone and stone that we were looking at earlier for use in the magma crucible to make lava, nether brick can also be used in the magma crucible to make lava, but it requires substantially less power. You'll see right here that 1 nether brick gets us 1/10 of a bucket, but only requires 200 redstone flux. And so if we were to quickly grab our spare sterling dynamo out of here and place it down right about there, of course give it a little bit in the way of fuel, we should be able to transform 1 nether brick into 100 millibuckets of lava incredibly quickly. Nice, we got an extra bucket of lava, which is going to allow us to head out to the surface. But one thing that has been changed in the new pack update is that a bunch of different armors now have different thermal values. And one of the updates that I read in the changelog is that iron armor now actively makes you colder. And so if we go out with the iron armor, I think we should be okay with the lava bucket. But the Twitch chat does make a good point here in that there is this mana weave armor, which does now make you warmer and looks pretty cool and isn't too expensive to make. It's made with these mana weave cloth. We're going to need 24 of those, but each one is just made with 4 mana infused string, which we can make from leafy string dropped in the mana pool. Also, part of the new pack is that you can now craft, I believe, green wool using the leafy string, so you no longer have to go through the whole rigmarole of getting that packing dye that we used in our multi-server press. But I think what we're going to want to do here then is quickly go out and see if we can't get a bunch more leaves to try and get about 100 string so that we can try and make 24 mana weave cloth. Right now, we've only got 16 string, and so we are going to need a fair bit more. Thankfully, the shears are super easy to make. We could even look at just making regular shears here, I guess, now, right? Because they are just iron, and we've got a bunch of the iron ready to go. So let's take our lava bucket. Let's go shear some trees, and if we don't die, we'll also try and get a bit of sand as well. Okay, so let's dump all of these leaves into the system. Let's make as many vines as we can, which apparently is a lot of vines, and then let's craft as much string as we possibly can. 2 stacks is more than enough, and then we can take that. And it didn't look like it took a lot of mana to transform this string, and so I'm quite hopeful that we should just be able to transform it all and maybe still have a bit of mana left. We can. Nice. Okay, so that should be more than enough. We've got over 100 mana infused string, and so if we craft that into mana weave cloth, we can then get a chest plate, sorry, a robe top. We can also get a robe bottom. We can get ourselves a cowl, and we can get boots. Nice. So let's take these off and let's replace those with our new robe attire. And look at that. That is quite the transformational look. I like it. Okay, so now let's go and see if we can't find. You'll notice we did start to burn there because this is now warmer than the iron armor that we were wearing previously. But let's go see if we can't find some more sand. 64 should be more than enough. But you'll see that out here, even without holding the lava in our offhand, the robes seem to be doing a good enough job at keeping us warm, which is quite nice. It means we shouldn't have to carry the bucket of lava around with us every single time we go out now, which is pretty nice. And so let's see if we can't avoid that creeper. I really need to either put down like a higher wall or potentially just go ahead and get that mega torch so we don't have to worry about creepers up there in the future. But let's smelt some glass, and while that glass smelts, I'm going to once again head down, see how much frozen stone we have, and see if we can't get yet more of the inert crystals. Alright, so we got more of these inert crystal ores smelting, and we have enough glass now to craft our 4 pipes with 1 glass in the center and get our small element container. And so, as I mentioned, the next thing that we need is the element evaporator. Takes raw shards and turns them into a usable source. Must be placed on an element container. This is 6 iron, 2 glass, and yet another crystal. That is fine. Let me go ahead and shift click that in. Boom. And so now, if we take this and put this down in our new little elemental craft room, it might also not be a terrible idea just to put a trapdoor on the top of this, because I feel like my temperature drops quite substantially even just walking into the snow. But let's put this down. Maybe like right about here for now. We'll probably end up moving this, and we might even end up making a lot more of these. But you'll see, if you hold the evaporator, it shows you exactly where you need to place it, which is pretty nifty. And you'll see that if you look at the small element container, the little circle appears next to our crosshair there. That is going to tell us what element is currently in there. For example, if I take a raw earth shard, actually, I think we might want to do water, because I think the first thing that we're going to make is a drenched iron ingot, which does require water. So you know what? Let's put some raw water shards into here, and you'll see that those slowly but surely get broken down, and you'll see here that that circle on the left slowly starts to fill up with water source. Cool. And now we can use that going forward for other endeavors. We do need to get an element infuser. This also goes on top of a small element container, and so what we could do, we could take this element evaporator and just break it and then put the element infuser on top of it, but I think it's going to make more sense if we have enough crystals to just make another small container and then use pipes to move the element from one to the other. So let us see. Let's grab more of these inert crystals. We're actually getting them fairly regularly. And so let's see if we can't get another small container, which of course does require more pipes. I'm going to make 2 lots of pipes because we're going to use 4 of them for the container, and then of course once we have both of those, I would like to make the element infuser, which is just some more iron and another crystal, which we have. Nice. And so I think we should have everything we need now to start making drenched iron. And so if we go and we put down this impaired element pipe, which I think just means that it's like an entry-level pipe, let's put that down right about here, and let's put our small element container like this. Now, I believe if you right-click on the connection next to the pipe that you want to extract from, that's going to turn that to extract mode. You can right-click again to disconnect, and right-click again to set it back to normal. And so now there is some water in here, and if we put the element infuser on top, we can then put some iron on top, and if there's enough water in the small container, it should transform into a drenched ingot. However, I assume there's probably not enough water in there. There we go. Nice. And that's the drenched ingot, taken care of. So now that we have the drenched iron ingots, these allow us to craft all of the other crystals. So the air crystal is made with glass, a glass bottle, which is obviously more glass, and drenched iron ingots. We'll bookmark that. The earth crystals are made with dirt, grass, and drenched iron ingots. Grass, super easy to make in this pack. It's 1 dirt and 1 sheared grass, and so that's not going to be difficult for us to do either. And then fire is by far the most difficult, but should still be quite doable. It's 1 bucket of lava, which we can now, of course, make with our nether bricks. It is 4 drenched iron and 4 blaze powder, but as we saw previously, we can go through to the nether, try and harvest a bunch of magma blocks, process those magma blocks into magma creams, and then process those magma creams into slime and blaze powder. And so, while we might have a few blaze rods left that we could potentially use to craft into blaze powder, I think that might be a better source of large amounts of blaze powder if we want to get a large amount of fire crystals going forward. There is also a quest here for the amethyst shard, which seems pretty straightforward. It's 1 raw water shard on an element infuser that has a low amount of water beneath it, which I think we should be able to do. We can. Nice. I'm just going to leave this on extract. I'm going to move all the water out of here into here. And it looks like we might be completely out of water on all of those, but that's fine. We have the amethyst shard, which it looks like is going to be used to make a springaline shard. The springaline shard requires, though, the element binder, which I believe we're going to get to over here. So we've got to move on a bit first before we can get to that element binder. But I guess let's first see if we can't make 12 of these drenched iron ingots so that we can make at least 2 of the air, earth, and fire ingots. So let's put all of our shards in there, and let's start putting our iron on here. I don't know if we're quite going to have enough water shards, but even if we don't, we can, of course, make more of them with more inert crystals and more buckets of water. One thing we might be able to do here is potentially set up a little bit of automation. Let me quickly go and grab a storage drawer. So the pipes mod does add the ability for you to filter what you extract, but in order to do that, you need to get an advanced pipe upgrade, which requires 4 diamonds, which is quite expensive. But I think that we can potentially get around that using storage drawers and the drawer key if we go ahead and we take maybe a hopper as well. I don't actually know if you can automate the elemental craft machines, but I'm going to assume that you potentially can. Let's see, if we put down an item pipe here, that looks like it connects, and we put a storage drawer here. We can set this to extract. That's going to pull the drenched iron ingot out, and now if we lock that drawer to drenched iron ingots, going forward, if I put iron in here, which I'm going to do with a hopper, like that, and like that, it totally works. Now, that's not going to start pulling that out until it's a drenched iron ingot, and so we can just leave our iron in there, and we can go make some more raw water shards while we wait for that to process all of that iron into drenched iron ingots. Of course, we are now using one of our buckets as a permanent lava source, and so we probably are going to have to craft yet one more of these if we're going to get the 4 buckets of water required to make yet more water crystals. Once again, we'll just right-click all 8 of these, and then we actually got some powerful raw water shards that time, which it looks like you can craft down into 9 raw water shards. But it also looks like you can just put them directly into the evaporator to get water. I wonder if you get 9 times as much, or if it's better to craft them down first. I'm actually not entirely certain. Thankfully, you can drop all of those in at once. It might not be a terrible idea for us to look at potentially getting a second element evaporator just to make this whole endeavor a little bit faster. We could get another small element container, another element evaporator, and then connect it up to this pipe here, set them both to extract, and that would probably allow us to make the drenched iron ingots a lot faster. Boom. Boom. And let's drop in... We'll drop in the powerful shards. We'll see if that does get us a lot more water. I assume it does give us 9 times as much, given that you can craft 1 powerful raw water shard into 9 smaller raw water shards. And so we already have 11 of these drenched iron ingots. Everything else I think we pretty much have. We have the glass, we can make glass bottles. We have the dirt, we can make grace. We don't have the blaze powder though. So let me quickly go and take a look. I don't think we have 4 blaze powder. We don't. We have 1 blaze powder. We do have 3 more magma creams though, and we can put those, of course, into our centrifugal separator, which does still have the power that we put into it previously, and so that should get us the remaining blaze powder that we need. Of course, we do need to set this to extract. There we go. That's going to make that hopefully faster now. And boom, we got 16 drenched iron ingots. Nice. I'll leave that... You know what? I'm not going to leave that going. We might need the water for something else. For now, I'm going to take that off. In fact, let me look a little bit further forward here. So we need to get an element binder. The element binder does require 2 drenched iron ingots, but we have those because we've got 18 and we only need 16. The Springerline shards don't require any drenched ingots, but they do need water, and so I think saving the water that we currently have is probably a good idea. Burnt glass needs fire. White rock, I believe, yes, needs earth, and then the element container does require 2 more drenched ingots. And so you know what? We'll put 2 more iron in up here, and that should be enough drenched iron ingots for us to get down to the element binder and potentially to the gem crystallizer. So hopefully, in the time that took, our centrifugal separator should have processed the remaining 3 blaze powder. It has indeed. And so now, I think we should have everything to make these bookmarked crystals. Let's get a glass bottle, and then let's craft 2 air crystals. Let's get a grass block, and then let's craft 2 earth crystals, and then we already have everything for the fire crystals, and so now it's just a case of taking these down and getting them, I guess, their own containers, because I believe you can only store 1 kind of element source in each small container that you have. And so if we're going to make something like burnt glass here, which does require fire, we're going to have to make a small container for fire. Of course, if we're going to make the white rock, we're going to need a small container for earth. And if we're going to make these swift alloy ingots and potentially the air silk, we're going to need one for air. So let's right-click each of these. Didn't get any large, powerful shards that time, but that's fine. Let's see, though, if we can't craft up a few more containers. All right, so we got 3 more small element containers. We could make 3 more evaporators as well, but I think for the most part, we're going to be able to just move the evaporators that we currently have. And so let's go ahead and put these down, shall we? I'm not quite sure where I want to put them just yet, but for the time being, I'm thinking I might do this. Actually, I guess we want to get 3 more of these, right? Because if we're going to do one for each of them, we probably want to get some more element infusers. Can I send this backwards? Like if I go ahead and right-click here, right-click here, right-click here, right-click here, can I extract from this back into this jar? Let me disconnect this one and then do that. I totally can, which makes complete sense, actually, now that I think about it. I don't know why I would have thought that wouldn't have worked. And so I guess once that's fully empty, we can go ahead, disconnect that, and then let's put another small element crafter down. We'll put that down here. We'll put down the pipe associated with that here. We will move this storage drawer because we can totally have that here. And then now, if we just steal one of our element evaporators, we can then place that down right about here. And of course, we do want to make sure that that does not connect. Not that that would really have any problem, I don't think. Chat is also telling me these do retain their elements when you break them, which is very handy, actually, for moving things around. But let's put a couple of fire shards in here. And then that looks really cool, actually. Let's see if we can't get one piece of burnt glass, which is just one regular piece of glass in here, if we set this to extract. Nice. We then do need the white rock, which is just stone. So let's disconnect that. Let's set you to extract to empty that out. I could probably have moved this to the center, actually. Let's try that. Let's see if that works. Let's put some of these theories to the test. If I put this in the center of the room, let's say right about here, and we place down our element infuser on top of it, my first question is the Twitch chat right in that these retain their source? They are. And so what we can probably do is just have the sources kind of around the center here. If we just place all of them down like this and connect them up with pipes, we can then move whichever element it is that we need into and out of the center container to power the element infuser. In this case, we need earth, so let's put you here. Let's quickly craft some more pipes because the pipes are not particularly difficult to make. And then we'll get all 4 of the small containers down, and it's probably worth making at least 2 more element evaporators just so that we can have one for each of the 4 elements. Let's not forget the pipes. And so down here, we'll put down our final container like that. We'll connect each one of these like this, and now we can put the element evaporator onto each of these. This one, by the looks of it, already had water in it, and so we have ended up putting water in here, which is not ideal, but we can potentially get that out, I think. That's fine. Over here, let's do a couple of earth shards. I'll put in, let's say, 3, and then while we wait for those to break down, we can set that to extract, and we can go and grab at least 1 stone from our system. Boom, and boom, we have a white rock. Nice. We'll claim our quests for both of these. And so now, I believe we probably want to get the element binder. This right here is an element container, a bigger storage for your source. So this is kind of like this, but it can hold more stuff, which is probably going to be useful. The element binder says used to bind various items together. Items must be placed in the order that's in JEI. So if we, for example, wanted to make a swift alloy ingot, we need an element binder on top of an element container that is, by the looks of it, half full, so a medium amount. Then we need to put on, I believe in this order, a gold ingot, a drenched iron ingot, a copper ingot, a redstone dust, and an air crystal. So it's probably in our best interest here then to extract this back over to here, and then to replace this center small element container maybe with a larger element container. The larger element container seems pretty straightforward. It does require 3 white rock actually. And so you know what, let me disconnect that again and set you to extract. Let's go get 2 more stone. We also might need 1 or 2 more drenched ingots because the recipe for the larger container also requires these upgraded element pipes, which you can make with 2 drenched ingots and a contained crystal, or you can upgrade them individually with drenched nuggets. Either way, I think it's basically the same. And so let's do this recipe here to get those. Let's grab 2 more stone. And I think that's everything we need to make the element container. It is. And then if we're going to make the element binder, we actually need 2 more stone on top of that. So let's grab a total of 5 stone. And let's see if we can't process some of our earth shards into more earth essence to get yet more of this white rock. All right, so that is 5 white rock. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to extract all of the earth out of there back into here. We can take those out for now just to make sure that there is space. Once that is empty, I'm then going to bring in some of the water here because I want to make a few more drenched ingots. One, because I think we're going to need at least 1 or 2 more, but also because I want to empty out this small container so that we can start breaking down our raw air shards, because we're going to need that air element if we're going to make our first swift alloy ingot, and we're going to need a fair amount of air as well. Okay, so there's still a little bit in both here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put 1 more down. I don't think we have enough between these 2 to transform that, but if we can fully empty this of air, fully empty this of water, we can then top this up with a little bit of water from here to finalize the craft. Then we can disconnect this, we can take you off, we can disconnect this, we can set you back to extract, and that's going to free this up here for all of the air that we need. So I'll put that in, get that breaking down. Once that's empty, we'll set that to disconnect, and we'll set this to extract. That's going to... Actually, never mind. I don't want to do that. I want to set you to extract because I actually want to replace this small element container with the larger element container. So back up here, we should have everything to make that larger element container. We totally do. And if I'm not mistaken, we should also have everything we need to make the element binder as well. We do. We're just missing 1 more contained crystal, which we can make. We've got a couple more inert crystals that are available in these furnaces as well, should we need them. Boom and boom. And so now let's go replace our small container in the center with this larger element container. I'm fairly certain this is going to work in the same way, in that if we wanted to, we could put the element infuser on top of it as well. So if I did this, I assume I can place this on top. I totally can. But more importantly, we can also place this on top. And so now if we set this to extract, that's going to start to fill up with air. And if JEI is to be believed, we're going to need that circle to be about half full if we're going to make our first swift alloy ingot, which is needed to make the strongly contained crystal, which is the contained crystal with 4 swift alloy ingots and 4 Springerline shards, which we saw before were also made with the element binder, this time with an amethyst shard, nether quartz, and wash crystal. That also seems fairly doable, but it looks like we need so much air. Like, this is not filling up anywhere near as fast as these small containers did. The Twitch chat is wondering if maybe we do need upgraded pipes for this. I'm not entirely certain. It looks like we're not backing up in here, and so I have a feeling that the pipes are working. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the pipes are working. We just need a lot of air crystals, because you can see if I extract that, it does totally work. It's just not being generated that fast, so I can put an upgraded pipe down like that, which I assume can move the elements faster, but I think we just need a lot more. Thankfully, the air crystals are kind of some of the easiest to make, and so I guess what we probably want to do is maybe go ahead and move this guy over to here. We can put our element infuser back on top of that. Then we can use the water that's in there and the water that's in here to make yet more drenched iron ingots, and then we can continue using those drenched iron ingots along with a bunch of glass to make yet more air crystals, which we can then craft into air shards. We can kind of hope and pray that we get some powerful air shards. We didn't, but we can keep taking those air shards, keep dropping them into the element evaporator, and I guess just keep going until we have a medium amount of air in our element container. Okay, so I've been doing this for a little while. I've just put another 13 in there after the last batch. We put quite a few air crystals worth of air shards into here now, and it's not really going up, which is not particularly great. But I'm going to try starting the craft. I've been told by the Twitch chat that it doesn't matter if we start the craft too early. It will wait for the remaining air if we don't have enough. And I'm intrigued if we actually need as much as it seems like we need. Let's take a look. We can get all of the ingredients here. 1 gold, 1 drenched iron ingot, 1 copper, 1 redstone, 1 air crystal. Okay, so copper, we have gold, we also have redstone. Oh, gold we don't have. Interesting. Okay, that's fine. Redstone we have, and then air crystals we can make more of, but to do that we need 4 more drenched iron ingots, and of course, yeah, we need 1 drenched iron ingot for this as well, so we need 5 more drenched iron ingots, which might take a second because I did just use 4 of them to make 2 more air crystals to get us more air shards. But never mind, we got 4 drenched iron ingots ready to go. I have reset up the same little setup from before, and so those are coming in automatically now, which is nice. So we need 1 more air crystal, which is easy enough, and then just 1 more drenched iron ingot. Of course, as soon as we get a little bit more gold, boom, there's our gold ingot, and hopefully down here we have 1 more drenched iron ready to go. We do, nice. So the thought process here is that maybe, just maybe, when it says medium amount and it shows like the circle half full, maybe this is referring to the small jar, not the bigger jar, this bigger container. It could be referring to the smaller container. For reference, that's kind of how Botania works. If you look at a recipe like Terra Steel, it looks like it requires a full mana pool's worth of mana, but this bar here surprisingly actually refers to the smaller mana pool. In Botania, there's the regular mana pool, and then there's the diluted mana pool, which is a much smaller mana pool that you can make for cheaper with living rock slabs, and this bar here shows how full the diluted mana pool needs to be, not the regular mana pool, which is a little confusing, but I'm hoping that's how this works as well, because if it is, that means that hopefully we don't have to get just a staggering amount of air before we can make this craft, because we've already put maybe 6 to 8 air crystals worth of shards into here, and it's nowhere near halfway full. So let's have a look. If we put in gold, then drenched, let me organize these. Gold, then drenched, I think it's then copper, then redstone, then shard. It is. So we'll do gold, just right click, then drenched, then copper, then redstone, then crystal. That works. Nice. Okay, so it does not require, thankfully, half an element container full of air. Again, it must be half of a small element container full of air, which is substantially easier to do. And so now we kind of just need to get the Springaline shard, which I think we can totally do here. We have the amethyst shard. We can get a nether quartz out of the system. And then other than that, it's just a case of crafting 1 more set of water crystals. So let's get 1, 2, 3, 4 of those. Let's craft another water crystal. Boom. As soon as we craft 1 more contained crystal, of course. Like so. Then let's see if we have at least 1 nether quartz in here. We do. We have 20. And that should be us good to go. This does require water, and someone in the chat does make a good point in that now it's quite possible that we've got just so much air that we might not be able to store elsewhere, because now we need to get the air out of here. But I think if we set this to extract, we're going to fill this up very quickly, and we're still going to have a lot more in there. I can of course do something like this and have that extract to here as well, but we're probably going to need a lot of these small element containers if we want to collect all of the air that we stored in there, because we just put in so much of it thinking that we needed it all. Okay, so I've extracted a lot of air out of this center jar. You can see we did make a lot of it. There's still some in here. Thankfully, you can just craft it to empty it, which is a bit of a waste of the air we had in there, but outside of just making even more jars, I don't really know what we would do. And so let's put this back down, and let's see then if we can't make this Springaline shard. For that, we need water, and water is going to be fairly straightforward for us here. Let's get this water crystal, break that down. Let's put those in here. Let's set that to extract. over here, that's going to start to fill up. That's perfect. And then we need to put in the amethyst, the nether quartz, and of course a water crystal, but I'm fairly certain we've got more of them here. We do indeed. Let's throw 2 more of those just in case we don't have enough water in there. And then over here, again, let me make sure I get this right. I think it's amethyst, nether quartz, water crystal. It is amethyst, nether quartz, water crystal. So 1, 2, 3. This one might take a second because we're just waiting for all of the element in here to break down and get transferred over, but it should complete. And at that point, we have, in theory, what it takes to make our first strongly contained crystal. Of course, to do that, we would need to get 3 of these springline shards, and for 3 springline shards, we would need to get 3 more amethyst shards, which, again, wouldn't be too difficult. We would have to stop using all of our iron here to make drenched iron ingots, but at that point, we can then get a gem crystallizer and a pure infuser, and it looks like we're going to craft up some larger crystals or gems here, some fine fire gems and pristine fire gems, which are then going to allow us to craft pedestals. And over here it says requires the 4 different pedestals around it. So presumably we take these pedestals, we take the infuser, and we use that to make a pure crystal, which does require a diamond, which we don't actually have. And so I think, chat, what we'll do next time is we'll come back and we'll probably go through to the nether and see about setting up that orchid ignum, which I feel like I've been talking about for a while now, but we'll set that up. Once we have that set up, we can then start to potentially automate the production of diamonds. The only tricky bit is bringing those diamonds back through to the overworld, because I don't think we have any kind of usable ender chest. We have the Minecraft ender chests, but you can't pump into and out of those. And we don't have like a tesseract we can use or anything like that. So I'm not entirely certain how we're going to bring those diamonds along with the nether quartz and the gold that we're going to get from the orchid ignum back through to the overworld. But I guess we'll figure it out. Once we do, we can hopefully automate diamonds. Once we have automated diamonds, we can then look, or at least once we have 1 diamond, we can then look at potentially moving forward here and getting this pure crystal, which allows us to get the fireite ingot. I'm not entirely certain what the purpose of the fireite ingot is, but that is a problem for future Isaac, because for now, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of Frozenopolis there.